For the 104th time, when will the Republicans roll out an alternative budget plan to what the governor has proposed?
No later than Monday. In fact, the framework is already in place right now. And what I want to say to the people of West Virginia, the process that we go through is to bring in the agencies, to have them do the budget hearings, hear from the different entities that comprise state government expenditures, and thoughtfully review that process and bring forth a budget. And it really is inappropriate to ask the legislature within this short period of time to bring forth a complete overhaul of the state budget within that short of a time frame. Now, we are doing this, Hoppy, in an expedited manner, in a world-class, speed-oriented approach. We are doing this quicker, and you've covered this process for a long time, quicker than any legislature before has done this.
Senator, give me a framework. I'm not expecting you to spill the beans, but give me a framework of what this proposal will look like.
Okay, and this is the best way to understand this. The governor gave us a revenue estimate. What do the people of West Virginia have to spend? That is the key component of this. It's $4.055 billion. Last year...
That's the amount that's expected to be collected in taxes next fiscal year.
Right.
Okay.
That's what we have to spend. Now, I'm going to announce an incredible process and a thought process. We shouldn't spend more than we have. I mean, I think to me that is the most basic element of understanding budgeting, is you do not spend more than you have. Everyone in West Virginia should be able to understand that. And they do. We've looked at the poll results. We've talked to people throughout our hills and valleys and communities throughout the cities of West Virginia. Everyone understands that you do not spend more than you have. That's what's put this state in problem over the years. That's what's put this country in a problem. And we are going to bring forth a budget from a framework perspective that spends what we have. Now, let me just, if I could just for a second.
Go ahead.
Last year, this state collected $4 billion, and spent $4.2 billion. And for the last 5 years, at least, the last 5 years, we've spent more than we have and had to go into the rainy day fund. This cannot continue, and the fundamental aspect of difficult decision making and difficult budgeting is to bring in that budget within the money that you have allocated.
Okay, fair enough. Let's get down into the weeds a little bit. So if it's projected that next year in tax collections it will be $4.055 billion, will the spending be exactly $4.55 billion, or will you have to make, how much do you expect to spend, and where will the cuts come from? Can you give me a framework about cuts?
Well, you've seen much of the framework. I've read some of your articles about it, and they're spot on. I mean, when we talk about, compared to the governor's budget of $4.5 billion, $500 million more in spending.
That the governor wants.
That the governor wants than what we will collect. Now, that's $500 million. So there's a couple of components within his budget proposals that are easy pickings that we should not spend. The Save Our State Fund that nobody really even knows what it's about. We haven't,
Which he asked for $100 million over 3, but he says now I'll take less on the SOS.
Even the governor, and by the way, I do not want to get into a metaphor match with the governor or a name-calling scenario. I have utmost respect for him and the position. But it is incumbent upon us to bring forth a budget that spends no more than we have. So there's $100 million that we can talk about. And then teacher retirement systems. We want to protect those systems with a vigilance. And so I don't, frankly, believe that we should refinance those pension bonds. But certainly we can smooth out the mechanisms that we...
Which means that if you owed $70 million this year to make it actuarial sound, you could spread that over 4 or 5 years and pay less this year, and you get about $45 million in savings there.
Right, okay. And we want to definitely protect that. And then a teacher pay raise. I would love to do a teacher pay raise. Our teachers do not make enough money. All of our state employees are underpaid. But we have to recognize that at this point in our history, after all these years of various party leaderships or whatever, we're the poorest people in America. This state of West Virginia has the lowest per capita income of any place in America, and it is inappropriate for anyone to come in and shake $500 million more out of the poorest people in America so that you can prop up government expenditures. And these require difficult decisions. I understand that.
Will this framework, Senator, and Senator Mitch Carmichael's with us, the president of the state Senate, Republican Jackson County, will this framework include any cuts in what we call the big three: public education, higher education, DHHR, which together comprise better than 70% of the budget? Will there be any cuts there?
Yes, there will be cuts to those programs. We cannot avoid those cutting those programs. Well, when you talk about coming back to a 4.055 revenue number that the governor has given us, they're going to be, every cut in those programs is significant. Every cut is significant, and we want to be as efficient and as compassionate as we can in the manner in which we cut those. And so what we'll do in coupling the cuts that we have to bring forth, we'll couple that with the flexibility in, for instance, the higher education, K-12, and the DHHR areas, Medicaid programs, to allow them to utilize the money that we have much more efficiently. But we're talking, I mean, like if you're talking about higher ed, maybe a 3 to 4% cut in their entire budgets of these different institutions. And
how about public ed?
Well, public ed, you're talking less than, probably 5%. But let me offer an alternative also, because as we talk about these cuts that are necessary with the revenue that we have, which, I want to make sure that the people of West Virginia understand that there is a budgeting principle in play here, is that you cannot spend more than you have. What we want to do, and I'm tying these two issues together, is fundamental overhaul of our tax system in West Virginia. The manner in which we tax our citizens is inappropriate, and it leads to this type of discussion every year.
But Mitch, the report, the fiscal note came back from Mark Muco that said if you do the Senate plan as proposed, you'd be $800 million short on revenue over 4 years.
And I have a great announcement for you this morning. We have a new fiscal note from the governor's office, from Mark Muco's office, that as we revised that plan, we listened to the discussion, we understood the concerns of the administration from the fiscal note perspective, and we modified it, and it does not reflect those numbers that you just conveyed. It will reflect a positive revenue stream.
Do you know yet what those changes are?
In general, I know a lot of, well, as we modify some of the exemptions. Well, I actually, it's probably too detailed at a high level to get into it, and it's very, very specific. And I've just recently reviewed, I just saw it this morning, as a matter of fact, and I looked at the bottom line numbers that absolutely reflect a positive income stream for the state of West Virginia without raising taxes in the aggregate.
Let's do some on-air work here. Would you have one of your minions give a copy of that to Brad McElhenney, who's sitting right here, our statewide? Would you make that available, or does that have to come out in committee?
No, I absolutely make it available. It's public information. I'm proud to put it forth. I mean, we are, and Brad just gave me his card, as a matter of fact.
There we go. Business.
But listen, that is something that all the people of West Virginia should review and say, because Hobby, every one of us here wants to guard against this aspect of coming in here every year and cutting this budget and cutting this government, because we don't want that.
Does the framework include any, and again, I'm going to try to separate this out from a tax reform plan, because there would be what you could call tax increases there if exemptions are removed. So, but does the framework that you're going to roll out either Friday or Monday include any tax increases such as consumer sales, food, business and occupation, anything like that?
The budget we will roll out will not include that. It will provide a budget for the state of West Virginia that lives within our means and does not continue to mortgage the future of our citizens, because the legislature cannot make difficult decisions. That is what has happened around here for too long, and we're not going to continue to do that.
The governor says that if you do that, your blockheads, your knuckleheads, your poodles, what did he say this morning? What do you call it, Brad?
It was a
basket full of something or other.
Deplorables,
something. So now we have two distinct ideas, or we'll have very soon. Is there a happy medium here?
I believe so. I believe there always are ways to compromise. And what I would say is present to the people of West Virginia one scenario in which a gentleman who happens to maintain the chief executive office of the state right now, using those type metaphors and that type of language. This is a serious issue for the people of West Virginia. This does not should not be degenerated into that kind of language and discussion. This is too serious. It's too important to the people. This is a fundamental discussion about the role of government in our lives. And what this state has done for too long is what the governor is proposing to do now. Come in, put a Band-Aid on the problem, raise a tax on the poorest people in the nation, and say that you've succeeded. And then we kick the can down the road for the next year. We are not doing that any longer. This legislature, this 83rd legislature, is going to fix this problem for the long-term prosperity of West Virginia, and we're going to reverse this trend of losing population and declining incomes by overhauling the tax system and living within our means.
Mitch Carmichael, the president of the West Virginia State Senate Republican, Jackson County. Mitch, good to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Great to be with you, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right, Monday, Friday, Monday.
No later than, as we go through this process, Hoppy, there are modifications that we make, and but the framework will be in place, and we can fill in the details. And whether we do it, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever, it certainly no later than next week, and we're going to refine the process as we go through. We have a plan, and it's done in a professional manner, and it's not going to be presented in a flimsy mechanism on a whiteboard that just, doesn't, and we're not going to use bad names for the governor. I like the guy, I respect him, and I want to work with him.
So you're not going whiteboard. Will you click it up and use PowerPoint?
Actually, however we present it is going to be first class.
Mitch,
and it's the right thing to do. I think all of us understand that we cannot spend more than we have. And if we want to restore these cuts that we're talking about to these different entities, if we do fundamental tax reform and pull it all together in that manner and move forward, we can restore some of these cuts. But we have to do it without that new tax system. We have to bring forth a budget that spends what we have.
Mitch Carmichael, the Senate President, Republican, Jackson County. Mitch, good to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Avi.